This video is going to show how to accomplish page 18 of the LEGO airplane assembly. What you're going to want to start with is downloading these parts right here that have been provided to you in Classroom. So if you come to your classwork page, you're going to look for the assignment that shows this 6174594 plate 4x4 .step file. You're going to click on it. You're going to download. You're going to see it download. You're going to show in folder, which is going to bring you to your Explorer browser, your Windows Explorer browser, and then you're going to want to double click on this to open. It should by default then open into using SolidWorks. If I come here, this is what the part is going to look like then in SolidWorks. You're going to immediately want to go to File and Save As to make sure to save this file. In this case, this is the folder that I'm going to want to save it to. You're going to want to save it to the same folder where you've had all of your parts previously saved to, or else you're going to run into issues later in SolidWorks. What you're then going to want to do is immediately open up the 2x12. So open back here. You're going to want to open your 2x12 piece. You're going to want to open these red-green button pieces that are going to stand for the light. You're going to want to do that before getting into your assembly mode. You then also want to make sure that you had your plane assembly opened as well. So this is where we left off from page 17. And with this here now, what we would do if we have those other parts open, the 2x12 especially, you're going to do your insert components here. I would come down and I would grab my 2x12 part. If this isn't open and showing, you would need to browse and find your 2x12 part to open it that way. But there we go. I'm now going to just drop, I'm going to be doing kind of an assembly off to the side here. I'm going to drop my 2x12 piece here. I'm going to insert more components. I'm actually going to pin this down so it stays open. And I would be able to do the 4x4. I'm going to need one of these. I'm actually going to need a second one of these. And I'm going to get my little light pieces in here as well. So I'm doing this slightly differently, that I'm going to get all the parts that I need in here first. And then begin to assemble. So this is literally just like dropping a bunch of Lego pieces on the desk in front of me that I'm going to be able to assemble. I could drop a third one, but that would be too many. But I'm going to click OK. And I now have parts here in my virtual workspace that's going to allow me to start assembling things together. Now, never mind, if I've got two red ones, that's going to be okay, but if you modeled two separate ones, a red and a green one, that will be just fine too. But for the sake of showing me that you know how to use the assembly, I'm fine if they're both the same color. But the strategy to mate and get these aligned is going to be with concentric mates. So we're going to do a mate. I'm going to make a concentric mate. So I pre-selected concentric. I am selecting that circular boss there, and I am going to carefully orbit around and come in, and you can see that the transparency is kind of clear here. What we would want to do is make sure that coming around, I'm going to select that surface there, that face, that interface to be concentric to the boss. And you can see that I've got one of those in place. I like that. I'm going to click the green check mark. I'm going to do the same thing, concentric and mate to that boss there. the round faces. What you could say is the circumferential radius, circumferential faces, standing for circumference. That got into place. There we go. We've got concentric mates. Now notice though, this is sitting inside. We're going to need one more. You can see that things are still free to move. They move together now, but we're also going to need on each of these parts a coincident mate between this face and the bottommost face of the button piece. So now those are tied together and in place. So I'm going to do another coincident mate. That top surface. To the bottommost face. And there you go. Those button lights are now in place. Now here's where we're going to need to go slow and methodically. We're going to get out of mate mode here. We're going to pick one of these two pieces and I'm going to select this one here. I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to move with triad. And I'm going to get this just positioned roughly before I decide. So I'm going to click on this rotator. And I'm going to get this closer to how I want it to ultimately be mated up so that I can see a little bit better what things need to be mated where. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a mate and we're going to do a concentric mate between this face right here and that circumferential face on that particular boss, the one closest to the light. And you're going to see that this is still free to move up and down. And what we're going to do next is we're going to do a mate, coincident mate between this top surface here and the bottom underside face right there. So a coincident mate next. Check. And you can see that this is still free to rotate about. Well, we don't have good alignment here yet between this face and what should be this face. So if you've been pre-thinking ahead, we're going to do another coincident mate between this face and this face. If everything is modeled correctly, that is going to put those nice in alignment. You're going to need to replicate quickly, or just replicate the same plan for this. So I'll go through this quickly, right click, move with triad, rotate around. I'm going to mate concentric that face to this face. Bring this up a bit. I'm going to do a coincident mate, top face to the bottom face. Check mark and coincident between that face and that face of the 2x12. And we now have, granted, two red lights. If you had your green lights, you could do that there. But that is what would be page 2. We have what we want for step 2 on page 18 right there, ready to be mated to this. That'll be the next video.